Hello and welcome. We begin with the West African country of Burkina Faso, where a shocking development is arising from an attack on a military base that unfolded earlier this week. Reports say 200 soldiers have been killed, and an al-Qaeda-linked affiliate has claimed responsibility. The army base in the northern town of Djibo came under attack on Sunday. Visuals from the military camp showed columns of black smoke rising as jihadists watched from nearby. Take a look.
Ko wiyo ñifan diina Allah ɗum wala fu ko itan diina Allah sinana ko ɓeydi to nji sakiraɓe a nemtenet.
The jihadi group that confessed to the assault is known as Jama'a Nusrat al-Islam wal-Muslimin. It is the al-Qaeda-backed group that has issued a statement claiming to have killed 200 soldiers of Burkina Faso. However, Burkina Faso's military government has not confirmed. The group had earlier claimed to have killed just 60 soldiers, but the dramatic shift in the death count has cast light on the spiraling instability in the country. The offensive came as Burkina Faso's leader, Ibrahim Traoré, was visiting Russia, where he met with Vladimir Putin and discussed counter-terrorism. The May 11 onslaught wasn't just on the military base. Simultaneous attacks reportedly targeted police posts, a market, and a hospital. Burkina Faso is a landlocked country in Africa, which has a population of 23 million. It has been struggling for years to counter jihadist attacks. The country sits in the Sahel region, which is a global hotspot for armed conflict. Armed groups linked with the Islamic State and al-Qaeda are active here, and military takeovers in the countries in the region, with the promise of providing security, have failed to deliver. 3 countries in the Sahel region, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, are led by military juntas, all of whom have distanced themselves from Western allies and have developed closer ties with Russia instead. Footage released on Wednesday, unidentified men, likely jihadists, were spotted tearing down flags of all 3 junta-led countries. They also tore down a Russian tricolour during the incident. As violence and extremism continues to escalate, analysts say that these insurgents move across borders. They launch surprise attacks and take control of towns and roads. Now, for more on this, we have with us on the show Beverly Ochieng, who is a senior analyst at Control Risks, joining us live from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me again.
Now, Beverly, what are the key factors driving the recent surge in terrorist attacks in Burkina Faso and across the Sahel, particularly in areas that are controlled by military regimes?
I mean, as you pointed out, there have been challenges in strengthening the security apparatus in the Sahel because military rule has not just led to political instability, but also security gaps. And since the coups in Burkina Faso in 2022 and in Niger in 2023, there has been a radical change in security partnerships, diplomatic realignments, and the sudden loss of additional forces, particularly from the UN, from France and other Western countries. We're also seeing a trend where militant groups, Islamic State, but particularly al-Qaeda, has been operating in retaliation against the military governments, and they take advantage of security gaps to be able to intensify attacks on forces and on civilians.
And how have the military-led governments of Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger affected counter-terrorism efforts? And what challenges do they face in regaining control over these territories dominated by insurgent groups?
So the three countries have mostly focused on a military response. And because of budgetary constraints and the lack of partners, it means that there's a lot of strain on the national forces. Burkina Faso, for instance, has recruited heavily into what is called the Volunteers in Defense of the Fatherland. But the VDPs, because of their links to the government, face repeated attacks from militant groups. In Mali, the resurgence of a rebel insurgency in the northern parts of the country has inadvertently contributed to less focus and deployment in the south. So we're seeing that militants are exploiting this to put pressure in mining areas. And in Niger, the Tillabéri region, where the capital is, has had security gaps since the coup, and Islamic State continues to besiege not just residents, but also security forces.
Right, and what role can regional cooperation and also international support play in stabilizing the Sahel? And how effective have the current strategies been in addressing the growing influence of al-Qaeda and these other extremist factions in the region?
So we've seen that Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, they launched a joint force under the Alliance of Sahel states. They've been carrying out operations along the borders, and there's been some minimal successes from this. They're also receiving support from other geopolitical actors, such as Russia. As you pointed out, Traoré was in Moscow talking about the security support he's getting from the government there. They're also purchasing drones from countries like Turkey. But then there's also the need for further support. So the Economic Community of West African States has been trying to establish a counterinsurgency force. Because of their tense relations with the Sahel, it's been very difficult to get more cooperation to secure their borders. But national armies in countries like Benin, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, which are also threatened by the insurgency, are increasing their capacity. There's also calls for dialogue with militant groups, but the concern is this could expose people to integrity issues, and militant groups themselves are not necessarily willing to engage with the current governments in the Sahel.
Right. Beverly, as always, great to have you on the show. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you as well.
At Firstpost, we are choosing to hold on to accuracy. That means we won't always be first. We may not get you your breaking alert. But what you will get is what we owe you. And that is the truth. Verified, checked, and cross-checked. We rely on sources and verified ones. After all, that's what separates a journalist from a loudspeaker. But sometimes even we miss a beat, and when we do, we will tell you. Like yesterday, we ran visuals from a registered news agency. That visual turned out to be fake, so we are taking accountability. And from now on, we will cite the source of every visual, every picture, every video that you see on Firstpost will have a source mentioned. That is our commitment to you. We will wait, we will verify, we will ask again, and only then will we tell you. No noise, no panic, just the facts. Because right now, that is what the country needs most.